Hi guys, welcome back, and this is the Revoslot review. So, after I've built the Revoslot, um, I hadn't had the opportunity to test it for a while, and I was just waiting until I had some time and I was able to go to the club track and test the car out. So, my thoughts. So when I built the car, I put the wood guide in, and I couldn't be bothered to like take it all apart and put like the scale electric guide in to run it at home because it's not really a car for my track at home. So my layout, you can't even get a scale electric car flat out. So it's pointless putting a Revo slot on my track, sending it around and doing a review because it just doesn't do it justice. I don't have a massive track like Marty or um, a lot of the other guys. So any kind of hobby grade cars, I'd rather review on the club track and just give people a better overview of what the car can do because I can get most of the cars flat out. Um, so yeah, in terms of the setup, I had some issues. Um, I thought that the float adjustment was adjustable, and it turns out it's not. So on the Revo slots, you've got the brass pivot points, so the brass hardware. Don't undo those because they will work loose and the car will come to pieces, and you might not be able to find all the parts. And that's what happened. And I spent about 45 minutes going around the track, and it's a big track, trying to find all the nuts and bolts from the car because it basically fell apart. So don't make the same mistake that I did. Make sure that you only adjust the float of the body on the body screws. Don't start adjusting the chassis because it's not really adjustable. I don't know if you can get upgraded adjustable parts for it, but the the hardware seems to work loose on a big club track when you're absolutely hammering it round. So that's how I found out the hard way. The tires are very soft. I gave them a quick true, but honestly, they didn't really need much. After that quick true, it did start behaving better in terms of the slide in the corners, and it was much more planted. So I do think you do need a quick sanding of the tires, but nothing. You don't really need to true them up like you would some of the other cars. So yeah, light sanding, and I applied some traction oil and polished them up, and the car started to behave very very predictably around the corners. In terms of oiling, yes, I oiled all the bearing points, the motor, and I also applied some lubricant to the gears. And I think I used the motorcycle chain lube that I normally use that doesn't fling off, and it kind of beds the gears in as well. The biggest problem that I had was actually getting the right gear mesh with the right amount of backlash. I did do a few laps and it was quite tight, and I had to really kind of take my time in setting that up, and that is something that is a good point on the car because you can set the gears up to how you want them to be set up, and that's the downside with say like the Pioneer cars that are not really hobby grade. Is it's a nightmare trying to do an aftermarket tune up on like a Pioneer car. It's just a massive headache. So it is really nice that the Revo slots have that adjustment there, so you can set the car up how you want it to be set up. And I cannot fault the car at all in terms of performance. What I would say is that Revoslots really need to be raced with other Revoslots. The car is pretty much flat out on quite a lot of the track. So in terms of going up against like an NSR, I believe the NSR would win over the Revoslot, but that's not really the point of the Revoslot. I think the Revoslot is a really, really good balance between performance and aesthetics, and you're getting the best of both. And a lot of manufacturers, like say Fly, do really, really well at the aesthetics, but are lacking in performance. And these are the Revoslots are cars that you can put on the track with, have a group of Revoslots and race them and be fast, competitive, and um, yeah, it's just going to be a very close racing, which is really, really good. That's what you want. And it kind of takes out people that might be quite far behind, especially if you've got like open classes where you're allowed to do lots of different things to the cars, and it can become people that have the most experience that can get the most out of the cars, or people that have the most amount of money that can spend the most amount on modifications. So this really does kind of strip it back to really kind of close racing, club racing. And yeah, I'd definitely recommend people pick up a Revo slot. Um, in terms of kind of having it at home on, say, like a Scale Electrics track, you're not really going to get the most out of it unless you've got aftermarket controllers, but that is more of an option now where you can have Scale Electric and aftermarket controllers. It's still going to feel quite nice, but for me, I get more out of modifying a Pioneer car and running it at home rather than the Revo slot, which is much higher performance level um, than kind of those cars. So yeah, it's kind of they're good to have, but I would say put them on a club track and then you really get to find out what they're like. Or for example, a big track like Marty's track, then yeah, go for it. Get some Revo slots. That's just my opinion. So yeah, I think we're going to wrap that up. So definitely, what I would score it out of 10, a solid 9 out of 10. Um, in terms of speed, it's not the fastest car, but it's very predictable, very planted, and aesthetically very, very good looking. The kits are great. You can pick one up for less than the Scale Electrics car, which is crazy. But obviously, you're going to have to build it and have the skills to paint it and everything else. But I would say it's a good project, and you can't really go too wrong. And there's lots of tutorials on building cars, painting cars, and you can always join Pete on Track Fans TV for his Wired on Wednesdays, because he builds, paints cars on there, so you can pick up some skills. So yeah, until next time, guys, take care.